Hey guys, it's Sarah, and today I'm going to be talking about everything that I read in the month of November. I ended up reading 8 books, which is a pretty good reading month, but more than that, I actually loved every book that I read, and all these books are either 4 or 5 stars, so November was definitely a win. And I'm a little bit sick right now, so I hope it doesn't come off too much, but I've been joking that I have my Phoebe Buffay voice going on right now, so I need to start singing Smelly Cat, and then maybe everything will just be perfect. All right, so to start off the month, I began by finishing an audiobook that I had been listening to for a little while, and that is Drums of Autumn by Diana Gabaldon, and this is book number 4 in her Outlander series, and I wanted to listen to the book right before the 4th season of Outlander started, and that's kind of how I've been tackling this book series. I really, really like it a lot, and they're really good on audio, so that's how I've been listening and consuming this book series, but I really liked it. I thought it was a great continuation. Some very, very interesting thing happens, and I won't spoil anything if you haven't read or seen the show yet, but I really liked the direction that it went, and it was really, really cool. So I ended up giving this one 4 stars. And the next 4 books I ended up reading for the Lalathon Readathon, and this was a readathon that was hosted by Books and Lala, and it was all about reading her favorite books. So she gave a big list of all the books she's either given 4 or 5 stars to, some of her top favorites, and then you kind of pick from that list and read some of those books. And I ended up reading 4 of them, and I loved all of them. So the first one was Forbidden by Tabitha Suzuma. Okay, this one is very interesting because this follows a brother and sister who are kind of the mother and father roles in their family because their father is gone. He's out of the picture, and their mother is missing in action, basically. She's their mother, but she's never home. She chooses to spend her time with her boyfriend and not at home with her children. So this brother and sister, who are 16 and 17, end up kind of filling those roles in the family and taking care of their brothers and sisters and keeping it all kind of under wraps so that they don't have to go into foster care. The brother and sister also fall in love, like lust, sensual, sexual love. And you follow, though, that story and how they choose to address it and how they choose to handle it. And I really enjoyed it. It was a 4-star read for me, and only I don't know. It's hard because I thought she handled this topic really well. Not that it didn't glorify it. It didn't make it okay at all. Like, not once did you feel that the situation was okay. I didn't feel it was okay ever. So I appreciated that. It wasn't, trying to say it's okay in this situation. No, it's never okay. It's never okay for this to happen. And the reason I couldn't give it a full 5 stars is because just the emotions were so intense. It was almost too much. It's like, okay, you're 16, calm down. You're okay. But it did, I understood why they had these feelings towards each other, especially more on his side of the thing. But it still wasn't okay. But I understood why, but it still wasn't okay. The ending surprised me, which I thought was very interesting. I didn't quite see it going that way. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It's not something I would ever read again. I don't necessarily recommend it for everybody. I think it's something that, if you think you can read something about this topic, then go for it. But I don't think it's necessary or whatever, or important or whatever. But it was good. I enjoyed it while I was reading it. So 4 stars. Then I listened to A Million Junes by Emily Henry, and I listened to this on audiobook. The audiobook was really good. And this is a magical realism about a girl and a boy who are part of a family. They're each part of a different family who kind of had centuries-long feuds with each other. And it's kind of known around town that these families don't get along. They're not supposed to interact with each other. They are enemies. And a girl from this family and a boy from this family meet and spend some time together. And, oh, hi, I kind of like you. And how are we going to handle this now? Now, the magical realism part comes in because there are ghosts in this city that everybody knows about. It's not a big secret. And the girl here, her name is June, she can actually follow the ghosts. Like if she encounters one, she can follow them and they can take her into their memories and kind of show her what has happened in the past. And that enables her to find out exactly what happened with these two families and why they're feuding and, what happened in the past that made these two families enemies, basically. So June and this boy, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but they kind of team up and figure out what's going on and try to resolve all of these feelings between these two families. And I really liked it. I was surprised because magical realism isn't my normal genre that I go to. It kind of takes a lot for me to pick one up because sometimes it's hard for me to suspend my belief that much. When it has so much normal things and then, something magical, it's a little bit hard for me to grasp that. But this one I actually really enjoyed. So I'm really glad that I read it and I gave it 4 stars. I picked up another audiobook by Courtney Summers and this is called Sadie. And this is a book that has just recently come out and so many people are talking about this book and the audiobook in particular. So I decided to go ahead and pick it up on audio since everyone was recommending that. And I definitely recommend it as well. This follows a girl named Sadie and her younger sister was killed. She disappeared and was killed. And Sadie decides to go on her own little vigilante quest, I guess you could say, to find who killed her sister. And she's pretty positive she knows who did it. She doesn't tell anyone where she's going. She doesn't tell anyone what she's doing. Now, the cool thing about this book is that it's told from 2 different perspectives. You have Sadie's perspective, which is where she is, what she's doing, why she's doing it. You're getting everything from her. The other perspective is from the town because they don't know where she is. They're only speculating on what she could be doing. And that is told through a podcast. And it's really cool because especially in the audiobook, you are listening to it and you feel like you're listening to a podcast. There's ads in there and there's music and there's interviews with people from the town. There's background noise while they're doing interviews if they're in a restaurant or something. It's really, really cool. So you really feel like you're listening to a podcast while you're listening to this book. And, it's all speculation. On their part, they have no idea where she is or what she's doing or why she's doing it. And I thought that was a really, really cool aspect of it. And I really liked it. I did give it 4 stars. I couldn't give it 5 because I hated the ending. It was very unsatisfying. So that knocked it down to complete star for me. But I thought it was very unique and I really like the way that it was written. So I definitely recommend it. And then the last book I picked up for the Lalathon readathon was All These Beautiful Strangers by Elizabeth Kleffoff. And I got an arc of this earlier in the year and I just hadn't picked it up. And it was one that always kind of stood out to me when I looked at my pile of books I needed to review. And I don't know why it took me so long to pick it up because I absolutely loved this book. I loved it so much. This is a mystery thriller. And it follows a young girl who is part of a very influential family in New York. And she goes to this boarding school. And this school is, very selective on who they choose to put in. So she ends up going, her father went there and blah, blah, blah. So she's basically very privileged. And you follow her as she is entering into a secret society that is at this school called the A's. And nobody is really supposed to know about it. Nobody talks about it, but it's kind of like it's there and people know it's there, but you never talk about it. It's one of those types of things. Now, it's very hard to get into the A's because you have to go through some trials, basically hazing. They are telling you, you have to do this in order to make it, to the next round or whatever. You have to steal this in order to get to the next round. So she's going through all this with her friends and one of them is her cousin and they're going through all these things together. On the side note, she is also finding out some things that has happened at that school that is giving her some insights into her family and her father and mother in particular. Her mother is gone. She kind of up and left the family and she never knew why that happened. And she's starting to kind of realize things that were happening that may have caused her to do that. So it's a little bit of a mystery that way. She's trying to unfold all this stuff about her family while she's trying to deal with, the pressures of school and the pressures of getting into the A's and all that stuff. And, what's really worth it to her in the end. I loved it. I loved this book so much more than I thought I would. I really it always called to me, but I didn't think I would pick it up and give it almost 5 stars. I gave it 4.5 stars. And Yeah, I loved it. It kept me guessing the entire time. I didn't want to put it down. The A's were awful, which you kind of expect that to be, but oh my gosh, they were awful. And yeah, I loved it. I loved the characters. I loved how the story went, and I thought it was fantastic. And I didn't give it a full 5 stars because sometimes the writing got a little bit repetitive, a little bit. I felt like, okay, I've read this before. I've read this quote or saying, or, she already explained this part type thing. So I did not get down half a star because of that, but I loved it. And I really want to read more from this author now. And then I picked up the last book that was on my 5-star predictions list, and that is Fury Abort by Claire Legrand. This is I guess it would be a young adult fantasy. It's violent, but I think it's more like on the maybe young adult, new adult side. And this one follows 2 different queens, and they are 1,000 years apart. So one is 1,000 years in the past, and you're following her coming into her queendom. Basically, she has to go through some trials in order to earn it and kind of prove that she is, a chosen queen. And you see her going through all that. There's also a pretty big love triangle happening here, and which I thought was done beautifully. And then you are also following 1,000 years into the future, and there is another queen who she doesn't realize that she's like kind of the chosen one. And when she does find that out, she's kind of in denial about it, like, yeah, right, whatever. But she's kind of an assassin type, and she enjoys kind of vigilante type of things. So she's very much, wanting to bring people to justice and, hunt people down and do all that. So you kind of see them both struggling with, either wanting to be a queen or not wanting to be a queen, but you need to accept it, that this is going to be happening, and, how they handle that. So I loved it. It took me a little while to get used to the world, to get used to the magic system and how things were happening. But once I was in it, that was it. I was good to go, and I could not put it down. I thought it was thrilling. It moved really quickly. The pacing was really good. I loved going back and forth. I kind of liked the queen that was set in the past a little bit more because she did have to go through trials and, kind of prove herself and all that. And I enjoyed that aspect of it. You see her struggle with certain things, which was very interesting. And the way this ended, I can't wait for the next book. And I'm very excited for it. So definitely a wonderful new favorite fantasy for me. Can't wait for book number 2, which I don't think comes out until May. But I absolutely loved it, and I gave it 5 stars. And then I picked up one of the books that is on my top 8 to read in 2018, and I finally finished The Chemist by Stephanie Meyer. I started this a while ago when it first came out, actually, because I was trying to get it from the library. I didn't want to buy it, and I could never keep hold of it. And then one of my lovely subscribers sent me a copy, her copy, because she had read it and didn't want to hold on to it either. So she sent it to me, and I finally picked it up and finished it and read the whole thing. Now, I started physically reading it, but it just seemed to take me forever, and I don't know why. So I ended up picking it up on audiobook through my library, and that helped it go a lot faster for me. And I felt myself more engaged in the audiobook for some reason than when I was reading it. And I don't know what it was, but I ended up actually really enjoying it. It's not super fast paced. There's some good action parts, and then it'll slow down and do some emotional stuff. And then it'll be action, and then it'll slow down to be emotional stuff. So it was kind of, I think, a good balance of up and down. And yeah, I liked it. I liked the characters a lot. I liked their dynamics a lot. I understood the struggle of our main character with, some of her emotional feelings during this whole thing that they were going through. Okay, so this follows a woman who was basically called the Chemist, and she was part of a government agency that had her develop chemicals for torture techniques. I guess is probably the easiest way I can say it. So she would create things, like medicine or, some things that you can inject into somebody that would get them to tell the truth, or that would get them to pass out without, hurting themselves. She tried to do it as humanely as possible. She knew what she was doing. But she was trying to do it as humanely as possible, you know, something that wouldn't hurt someone too bad, but it'll get them to tell the truth and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah. And I guess they decide they don't need her anymore, and they try to assassinate her, and they keep trying to assassinate her, but she's on the run basically from them. And then it comes down to someone contacts her and they need help tracking down somebody who's gotten into a bad crowd, and they need information from him. And so she takes him, and they basically say, you can get your freedom by doing this. And so she goes and she collects him and tries to get him to talk, and it's a whole thing. And I really liked it. It surprised me quite a bit. There were a few things I wasn't expecting, and overall I enjoyed it. It's probably not one that I'm going to hang on to, but you know, while I was reading it, I did enjoy the story, so I gave it 4 stars. And last, you guys, I picked up a book that really intimidated me. It really intimidated me. I was scared of this one. I've been putting it off because I'm scared of it, but I finally picked it up. I did it as a buddy read with my friend Jamie, and it is now going to be in my top 10 of this year, for sure. And that's Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. So this is massive. It's over 500 pages. I was scared. I've read Laini Taylor before. I read Daughter of Smoke and Bone. I haven't read the other 2 in that trilogy yet, but I knew her writing was very lyrical and beautiful. I really did enjoy Daughter of Smoke and Bone. So I wasn't really super concerned about the writing because I knew it was going to be beautiful. I was a little bit afraid that it was going to be too whimsical, maybe, or hard to follow. And it wasn't at all. It really wasn't. And the problem I had with it is when I've heard other people talk about this book, they don't give much of the plot away. So I didn't really know what it was about. I knew that it was a fantasy. I knew that it was about a character named Laszlo Strange, and I knew that he was obsessed with a city called Weep that has disappeared. That's all I knew. And there's so much more. Like, no one's talking about what's more. Okay. And I understand, like, no one wants to give spoilers, and I think that I can kind of summarize it a little bit in more detail without spoiling anything. I think I can do that. So we follow a librarian named Laszlo Strange. He is an orphan. He has been raised by monks, and he is now a librarian in a city. And there's a big academy there with students and everything. And he's one of the librarians there. So he's always loved books and, stories and all that. He's kind of always reading and all that. And he is obsessed with a city called Weep that has basically disappeared from the minds of everybody. A lot of people forget about it. They can't even remember the real name of this city. That's not even the real name of the city. And it's just kind of been wiped from everyone's mind. But he always has had a vague knowledge of it. And really, he was recording things while he was learning about it. He just became really obsessed about it. But even he's starting to have trouble remembering things about it. So one day, some outsiders come into their city, and he recognizes them immediately as citizens of Weep. And he's going, oh my gosh, these people are from this city that I'm so obsessed with. How is this happening? Why is this happening? What's going on? What do they need? And basically they need a big troop of people to come and help them solve a problem that has been, kind of towering over their city. They have a big issue, and it's causing them to not be able to live their lives, and they need help. And they're kind of going around the kingdoms trying to gather, certain types of people that they think can help with this problem. So Laszlo ends up getting on this team in a very funny way. And he goes to Weep. And he learns a lot about the city. He learns a lot about the citizens. He learns a lot about why certain things happened and why the city has pretty much been, wiped out of everyone's mind and kind of not non-existent anymore. So he learns all of that stuff. Okay. That's all I'm going to say. But it was beautiful. You guys, the writing was gorgeous. I knew it would be, but man, it was gorgeous. I could picture everything so incredibly vividly. And the characters were fantastic. It broke my heart in quite a few places. It made me feel so much sympathy for this town and what happened. It made me angry quite a couple times. There's one character that just needs to go. And there's some sequences in here that are just so beautiful and just, oh, I loved it. I felt like I got lost in the story, and that's, what you want from a book. And I haven't felt like that for a while. So I loved it. I loved every word. I've already ordered the second book from Book Depository. So as soon as it gets here, I'm going to be picking it up and reading it. And I believe it's only a duology, so the second book will be it. But I'm so happy I picked it up. Thank you, Jamie, for reading this with me. And I loved it. I loved it so much. It will be in my top 10 of this year for sure. And it's up there, guys. It's up there. 5 stars, obviously. All right, guys, that is it. Those are the 8 books that I read in the month of November. Let me know down below if you guys have read any of these and what your thoughts were. And let me know what your favorite book was that you read in November. Mine would be Strange the Dreamer, followed very closely by probably Furyborn and All These Perfect Strangers. Those are probably my top 3. And yeah, let me know what your top books were for the month of November as well. And I will be back tomorrow with my TBR for December. Oh my gosh. Hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you again soon. Bye.